Okay, welcome student. We'll start with the data structure today. So basically we'll have for this particular basic introduction we have two parts. The first, like what are the things that we have to discuss is basic concepts and the notations, complexity analysis, that is how we can calculate a complexity in a theoretical manner, time space trade-off, some algorithmic notation such as big O. We will also go with the omega, theta and little o notation. So I have divided this video into two parts. We'll go with the first part now. Come to the basic concepts and the notations. What is an algorithm basically? Algorithm is like, it is the step-by-step instruction of a computational procedure. Means it is a step-by-step solution to a problem. We call this thing as a algorithm. One thing you should be very clear, whenever you are writing an algorithm, it should be a very clear step-by-step instruction that the person that is reading that particular algorithm can understand the solution or instruction to solve that problem. Also, your algorithm should be unambiguous. Means whenever I say unambiguous, means all the steps should be clearly defined. Now, what is a program? A program is an implementation of an algorithm in some programming languages. Now, one thing you should be very clear, algorithm is a step-by-step instruction. That doesn't mean that it will able to execute on a hardware or a machine. I'm repeating again, algorithm is in a step-by-step instruction, but it cannot execute on a hardware. So, come to a program. What is a program is like? It is an implementation of an algorithm that is done in some programming language. Now, whenever you implement in a programming language, it clearly means you can like execute on a hardware itself or a machine. Now, the third point, what is a data structure? Now, whenever you're dealing with some data, a particular manner to organize those data to solve a problem is called as a data structure. It is an organization of a data needed to solve the problem basically. So data structure means how you structure your data. Like for example, you have a roll number to a student, like 20 students I have in a class. I want to organize their marks so that I can do like find an average or something. So how I will organize my data to solve that problem of finding an average, we call this thing as a data structure. Now we'll go with the broader classification of the data structure now. So basically the data structure is divided into two parts. One is called as a primitive data structure, the second is called as a non-primitive data structure. As the name suggests, primitive are basically meant to store a single data, a single value. I'm repeating again. The primitive data structures are meant to store a single data, for example integer. Integer can store a single integer. At the same time real can store a single information, character can store a single character, boolean can store a true or false. Like it is, these are the primitive data structure that is defined in a programming language and they are dependent on the programming language itself. Come to the non-primitive data structure. Non-primitive data structures are divided into two parts. One is a linear, second is a non-linear. I am repeating again. The first is a linear, the second is a non-linear. Now, whenever I called as a linear data structure, there is two basic ideas, or you see, you can say in this way also, two basic constraints are there. The first, either the memory should be accessed in a linear fashion, either they are stored in a linear fashion or they are accessed in a linear fashion. I am repeating again, whenever a data structure is a linear data structure, this clearly means they are stored in a contiguous memory location such as array. At the same time, the second idea or the second possible manner would be they are accessed in a sequential manner, for example linked list. Wherever the non-linear data structures are those, they are not stored in a contiguous memory location, also they can be accessed in a random fashion also. Now come to the linear data structure that we have studied in the syllabus, that is array, linked list, stack and queue. Come to the non-linear data structure that we have to study is tree and graph. So you can consider this is the whole syllabus that we have to study: arrays, linked list, stack and queue, tree and graph. Come to the data structure operations now. Again, whenever I say operations, this means certain operation you want to perform on those data structure you have. So the first operation is called as a traversal, or also called as a traversing. Now, accessing each record exactly once so that certain items in the record may be processed. Means suppose you have an array. Whenever I call the traversal of an array means accessing each record exactly once. Suppose you are printing an array, it is again a traversal, means for every data you are doing an operation or a process. Every data is being processed in a printing process. Like suppose you are printing your entire array, that is the idea. Now suppose traversal means like suppose you have an array and suppose it is an integer array itself and you want to add like for every number you want to add 2. Suppose it is an integer array of the marks of the student. For some of the reason every student will award 2 marks extra. In this case you have to visit every record once and then you have to do the existing plus 2. So like you are accessing each record at least one time and exactly one time. In this case we call this thing idea is a traversing. Now come to the searching, the second operation. Here the searching means you have a specific target. Okay, I am looking for this particular number. As soon as I find, I will stop. For example, you have a array that contains the phone number. Okay, suppose you have an array that contains the phone number and you are looking for a particular phone number that ends with 666. I'm repeating again, you have an array of the phone number and you are trying to find a phone number that is ending with 666. So we'll start from the first data in an array and you will access each data one at a time, one after one, one after one. As soon as you find a phone number that is ending with 666, you will stop there itself. So that is called as a searching. Finding the location of a record with a given key value or finding the location of all the records that satisfy one or more condition. Now, whenever you do a searching, there's two basic things that will happen. Either you will succeed or you will fail. Succeed means you will get your data. Whenever I say the fail, this means you will look into your entire array and you will not get the data you're looking for. Now, whenever you say succeed, like you're getting your data, you're looking, whatever you're looking, you got that data, you have a success. Now, success could be done in between or could be done at the last element also. At like suppose you start your searching, the first phone number is itself ending with 666. You are done, you will stop there. Suppose you are not looking for all the records, you are just looking for a single record. At the same time, if you will go to the last element present in the list can make you successful. Come to the insertion. Before insertion, I will again repeat, traversal means there is no criteria you have in your mind. You have to access each record exactly one time and you are done with the process. Whenever you are doing with the searching, you have criteria in your mind. Okay, I am looking for this data. As soon as I find, I will stop. You will get a success or failure. Insertion, adding a new record to the structure. Means suppose you want to add one more record, you have to use the insertion operation. Deleting, removing a record from the structure. Whatever the existing record you have, if you want to remove a record, you call this process a deletion. Some special data structure operation. The first is the sorting. Now sorting means arranging the record in some logical order. Now, for example, if it is a number, it could be increasing order or decreasing order. If suppose it is an alphabetical, it should be the lexicographic order or basically known as the dictionary order. So this is like sorting, rearrangement the record or arranging the records in some logical order. Come to the merging. The merging is like combining the records in two different sorted arrays into the single sorted file. And suppose you have two arrays, they are sorted individually. Now you want to create one larger array by combining or merging them together. This process is called as a merging. So see an algorithm basically in arrays, like how the merging process actually being carried out. Here the inputs are two sorted arrays, two small sorted arrays. Now if you want to merge the content of both the sorted arrays to create a bigger sorted array, we call this process as a merging itself. Now come, what is an algorithmic problem basically? Now algorithmic problem is like you have some input and you want a specification of output as a function of the input. Means you have an input series given. At the same time, what your expectation is, you want an output that is like a function of the input. I'm repeating again, you have an input available and what your expectation is an output is like a specification of an output. You're getting an output that is being relatable to a input with the help of a function. Infinite number of input instances satisfying this specification. You could have infinite number of input instances. For example, I'm repeating, means if you're looking for a particular input, like you have a criteria and you're looking for all the possible inputs, an infinite number of such instances are applicable and may satisfy. For example, you want a sorted non-decreasing sequence of non-zero, means you want a sorted record. Also you want a it should be increasing order, increasing sequence of the natural number of non-zeros of the finite length. So you can have multiple options. You can see like two options I've given, both satisfy the condition. So that is the idea. Whatever the question mark is there, an algorithm is a function that is applied on the input to get a specification of the output. So this is an algorithm talking about. Algorithm describe the actions on the input instances, and secondly, infinitely many correct algorithms for the same algorithmic problem is possible. Means algorithm, what the algorithm basically does, it gives a action on the input instances, what the action you want on your input. At the same time, infinitely many correct algorithms for the same algorithmic problem exist. Means for a single problem, infinitely many correct algorithms may exist. It is not a problem. But make sure whenever you say an algorithm is a correct, this means it satisfies your function is input, like whatever the input you want, output you want, satisfy for all the possible cases. Now what is a good algorithm? See, suppose there is an infinite number of algorithms are available. There could be huge chaos starting like, okay, whatever, which is a good algorithm, which is a bad algorithm. Then suppose in a same day I have given in a class, suppose I have given a problem and two students have solved the problem, then I have to judge like which of them has solved in a better way. Again, both are satisfying the answer, that is fine, but I want like which of them have given a better solution. There we come have a concept of the good algorithm. Basically, a good algorithm is like it is solving your problem and it is a better or good. Now what are the criteria to nominate an algorithm as a good algorithm? The first, it should be efficient. How you can find an algorithm is efficient or not? The first criteria would be the running time, and the second is the space utilization. How they are calculated we'll see in further videos. So there are two basic criteria that will identify an algorithm is a good algorithm or like efficient algorithm or not. The first criteria would be the running time. At the same time, the next criteria would be the space utilization. What is an efficiency as a function of the input size? The number of bits in an input number and the number of data elements. Now come to the complexity analysis. Why we should analyze an algorithm? What are the necessities? Predict the resources that the algorithm requires. Now suppose you are creating a solution for a problem. Now you have created a most beautiful solution, or you can say like most best solution you can create, but the problem with your algorithm is it can run only on supercomputer. Now this is not going to be a beneficial or efficient idea, right? So whenever you're writing an algorithm, what the complexity analysis does, it predicts the resource requirement or whatever the resources that your algorithm will require. It is just a prediction. First is the CPU consumption, the second is the RAM consumption, the third, suppose your algorithm needs some network bandwidth, it also finds the communication bandwidth consumption. Whenever I say a CPU consumption, this means the computational time, how much time is required to solve your problem. That, or you can say the computational time is basically the amount of the time required by an algorithm to produce an output. Second is the memory space, like how many much of the memory is utilized by your algorithm while solving the problem. Second, last option is the communication bandwidth consumption. Generally, whenever your algorithm does some network operations, so what is the bandwidth consumption required? Come to the running time of an algorithm. The total number of primitive operation executed, that is a machine independent steps. I am repeating again, it is the total number of primitive operation executed. Every single statement that is being executed that is independent of the machine. I am repeating again, the total number of primitive operation executed that is machine independent steps. We call this thing as running time of an algorithm. It is also the determination of order of magnitude of a statement. Like we are trying to determine the magnitude, like how many times the statements are being executed. It is being running. We call this thing as the running time of an algorithm, also known as algorithmic complexity. I am repeating these three lines again. It is the total number of primitive operation executed, means all those machine independent steps you have executed, it is just the combination of that. Like you have just counted all those steps to call this thing as a running time. Again, it is a determination of the order of magnitude of a statement. Like you are determining the magnitude of all the statement that is being executed. Generally, suppose you have a statement given inside a loop. The loop is running n time. So how many times that particular statement will execute? N time. Repeating again, suppose you have a while loop that is running n time, and within the while loop you have just a print statement. Now if I try to find the complexity means it is the determination of the order of the magnitude of the statement. So that particular print statement will execute how many times? That many times the loop will execute, or you can say in a n time. So this loop is going to execute n times. Now come to the time complexity, the worst case, average case and the best case. I will take an example of searching of an array. Array searching means you have an array, you are looking for a particular element. But suppose it is the worst case, it is not your day. You can say it is the worst case. What the worst case means? An upper bound of the running time for any input of the given size. Upper bound, that is the maximum possible. That is the worst case. For example, what could be the worst case when you are searching a particular element? You get your element at the last position in the array. Repeating again, what could be the worst case? You compare the entire array and you get, suppose it is you are lucky itself to get your element at the last position. Suppose you are not lucky, you will not get that element. Means you have searched the entire array and still not getting your element, or you are getting the element in the last position. We call this thing as a worst case. Okay, you got this point? Like worst case is like the upper bound, like what is the maximum possible time this algorithm will execute to produce an output. That is called as the worst case. Now come to the best case. The best case is the lower bound. Take the same example of the searching. Now suppose it is your day, your lucky day. What will happen in the best case? Like you started searching for an element in an array. The first element itself will be the number you are looking for. You will stop there, obviously. In this case, this is the best case example. I am repeating again, the best case is like the lower bound. This is the minimum number of comparison you have to perform to produce an output. For example, at least you are looking for a number, at least one comparison is necessity to found that element. That is the best case. At the same time, the worst case would be like maximum, you suppose the number is present, given this is assurance, given the number is present. The worst case would be like n times, like entire array will search and then you will get an element. Anything that is between best and the worst, you call this thing an average. Equally likely, anything that lies between the best and the worst, you call this thing as an average case. Assume all inputs of the given size are equally likely. Now, for suppose I am taking an example, a sequential search, also called as a linear search, in a list of the size n. The worst case, like how many comparisons? N comparisons. Best case, the first element itself is the element you are looking for. Suppose it is your day, how many comparison you will make? Only one comparison and you will say, okay, I got your element. The third is an average case, that is like in between of the best and the worst. If you find an average, n plus 1 by 2, that is n by 2 only. How you find an average? Like the worst case plus best case by 2. Come to the time-space trade-off. Now the time-space trade-off is a situation where the memory use can be reduced at a cost of the slower program execution. Means that whatever the memory requirement you have would be reduced given that your overall execution of the program would be slower, or conversely the computation time can be reduced by the cost of increased memory use. Or see what you want, like you want your program to execute faster. So what the time space trade-off suggests, the memory utilization could be reduced given your program will execute slower. So they are inversely proportional to each other. If you increase the memory, the overall execution time will reduce. At the same time, if you will reduce your memory, the execution time will go up. Again, I am saying they are inversely proportional to each other, the memory and the time. So what the time space trade-off says, it is a relation between, what is the relation is, whatever the memory size uses could be reduced given your overall execution of the program time, like whatever the time required to execute your program will significantly get up. At the same time, or conversely, your execution time could be reduced given you will use more memory. Again, they are inversely proportional to each other. Now the space time or the time memory trade-off is a way of solving a problem or calculation in less time by using more space, or by solving a problem in very little space by spending a long time. Again, they are inversely proportional, that space or memory are inversely proportional to time. Now what is the trade-off basically? As the relative cost of the CPU cycle, the RAM spaces and the hard drive space changes, the hard drive space has for some time is been getting cheaper at a much faster rate than other components of the computer. The appropriate choices for time-space trade-off has changed radically. It's just that the time-space trade-off is like a balance in between of the time and the space. Suppose you have an algorithm to execute to produce an output. You will never want that it will take the entire memory. Also, you will never want it takes 2 years to produce an output. So a balance between the time and the space is called as a time-space trade-off. Also, whatever the time-space trade-off you have today will not be applicable in the future because the cost of the components are getting decreased day by day. Often by exploiting a time-space trade-off, a program can be made to run much faster. Come to the asymptotic notation. Now from here we'll see in the next video. Thank you.